Now, as a student, we don't have a particularly large amount of money. So what do? We run. How's it? See, I'm a pretty well-behaved fellow. Never really got into much trouble. But I have, in fact, had one run-in with the police. Now, it's not for a reason you may think, crime, stealing, robbing, gunfire, bad driving, nothing like that. This is in fact a story about a little bit too much fun that resulted in a little bit of apprehension, so to say. So, I was in my first year at college, and as it goes, I was having a lot of fun. Now, earlier in this day specifically, I had found a travel card for ages 5 and under on the road. Now, naturally, I pick it up, I look around, I don't see any 5-year-olds and under, and I tap it on my phone to check the balance. So these travel cards essentially allow you to go on buses, trams, etc. Get you around the city on a night out, which is very ideal. So I tap it on my phone to check the balance, and we have a whopping €5 on it. €5 in Dublin will actually last you quite a bit of transport, believe it or not. It's not a very expensive place when it comes to getting around, which is ideal for a student. Now, the reason I even considered picking this card up was because I was having a friend come over from the UK, a friend from back home, and I wanted to make his life easier, so he wouldn't have to go himself to the post office, get himself a transport card, and it would just be an overall easier experience and a little bit of a welcome gift. Naturally, when he arrived, I gave it to him. He looked at me funny, kind of said, "Why on earth does it say 5 and under?" And I said, "I found it, But no one's going to check. They just tap the card. You hold your finger over the age when you tap the card, so nobody sees, it's not that deep. Sure, it's a bit of tomfoolery, but at the end of the day, in my mind, it was alright, because a student card, which we were, in fact pays the same amount as an under 5-year-old's card. So ultimately, there's no money being lost by the company that does the transport. Now, you may be thinking, yes, you're a hero, Benji, for figuring that all out. And I know I am. However, other people didn't see it that way, unfortunately. So, now we're both in Dublin. We're getting ready for a night out, having a good time at my apartment. Another one of my friends from Zimbabwe comes over to see us. We're having fun, it gets going, a little bit naughty. And next thing you know, we're on the road to get to the club we decide to go to this evening. So, as a student, money is not a real thing I have. I'm on a very tight budget. Naturally, that means I use my money very cautiously. So, getting around, obviously you take public transport. So, we get on the tram. Right, you walk over, I have a tram stop right near me. We walk over, we tap our cards, they all work as per usual, and we get inside. Now, we're jovial, we're having a lot of fun in our pre-drinks, so naturally we bring it abroad onto the tram, and we're having a lot of fun. The guards on the tram, because it's evening time, and, well, policemen, for those of you, and that means they're watching you, they're scouting you, they're going to check that your ticket is correct. Naturally, we tapped the thing, which means it's okay. And in that sense, we would have been all right. However, we decided that the fun we're having at our apartment, we were going to bring onto the tram, which turned out to be a bit of a mistake. So, we're on the tram, on our phone, we're listening to music, and joviously, we're singing along, having a good time, We're talking to the other people on the tram, and they're having a good time with us. There's a group of people who turn out to be going to the same street because it's kind of a student town, We're having a lot of fun. They're joining in, they're singing. And naturally, the police on the tram come to us and they say, "You're being too loud." So, as the good citizens that we are, we turn it down and we proceed to whisper the lyrics to the music. However, that's clearly not what the police were meaning. So we're going along. However, we're not breaking any laws, any rules. So they have nothing. They can't do anything. Technically, at the most, we're having a conversation, loud singing session. So there we are singing, you know, bopping along, fists in the air, having fun with these random strangers we've just met. And when we reach our stop, this is where it goes a bit pear-shaped. The police come over to us and naturally they check our cards to make sure that we in fact did tap and pay to get on. Now we had, and in any circumstance we would have been all right. However, due to our little bit of noise earlier, they were clearly on a mission. So they were doing their job, they were checking us, they went one by one, tapping our card to look at us. So for the two of us who live in Ireland, we in fact have a student card which has our face on it. So they look at it, they tap it, and they think that's all right. Normally, you actually tap the card. However, in this case, they were specifically taking it and looking at our names. Now, that wouldn't have been a snag. However, when it came to our friend who had arrived from the UK, it was a snag because he had an under 5-year-old card, which is not ideal. So he taps it. However, the policeman wants to hold the card. So he takes the card, he taps it, he sees that he's paid, but he looks at it. And he scans over the age, seeing that it's a card bought by the post office, and he sees that it's an under 5-year-old card. Now, he looks at him, and he says, "You're not 5," which naturally he wasn't. We obviously pulled he's our child card, but I don't think that went very far, unfortunately. So, the guard steps out the tram with us at our stop, and he proceeds to talk to us for a minute or two. Now, the conversation included a fine. Now, as a student, we don't have a particularly large amount of money, so what do? We run. I'm joking. This security guard was enormous. He was a big fella. In fact, he was probably Russian or German, and we did not want to mess with this dude. So we sat there and proceeded to use our best negotiation skills to try and get out of this ticket. Because the ticket, in fact, was €100, which is about a lot of food money for us. So, on our first night out, we'd already come into a bit of a snag, and with our friend who had come over the pond to see us for a good time, which was not an ideal situation. So we're standing there, a bit glum now, after all the festivities and fun we'd had on the train earlier, peering up at this enormous policeman trying to fine us. So naturally we succumb to it. He's threatening to put us in handcuffs, take us away. Naturally we're telling him, no, please, we're innocent people. And we're trying to explain that the fee, in fact, is the same and that we, in fact, bought the card. And because we're students, the card was paying the same amount anyway. He was not having it. He told us, you're paying the fine or else. So, begrudgingly, we pay this fine. We're gutted. This is our fun money, the money we're about to spend. In fact, this is more money than we were about to spend. Now we're going to have no food, which is going to be awful. But what can you do? You have to face the consequences in which you had put yourself in. So we pay the fine. We decide to split it 3 ways. So now we walk to the club, gutted. Horrible time. We've just had our whole night ruined by a policeman on a vendetta against us, purely because of the quantity of fun we were having and the absolute morale we were bringing up on the tram. So a bit stubbornly and sadly, we get to the club. We party the night away. It's a great evening. We've had a lot of fun. And as we're walking home, we see the glimmer of a food stall. At the end of the night, you want food. However, in this case, we proceed to look at our bank accounts and realize that's no longer an option. We have to be starving people. The tram is naturally closed because it's past 12 o'clock at night. We're gutted. How on earth are we going to get through the rest of this night, the rest of the situation, the rest of this week, in fact, now that we have no food? So, we do the natural thing. we go home hungry. There's no bright side to the story. There's no happy ending. This is a tragedy. This is a tale that leaves a glimmer of, of sadness in your eye, a tear rolling down your cheek. However, in fact, it did teach us a good lesson. And that lesson, in fact, was to go and buy a transport card. Anyway, it was one of the more amusing stories. And I hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.